The harmattan wind moves before dawn, dragging red dust across the flatlands like a slow exhale from the earth itself. The village of Ulois sits behind a wall of dried clay and sharpened bamboo stakes, its thatched rooftops pale under a sky not yet committed to morning. Smoke curls from sleeping cook fires. Dogs lie still. Nothing moves except the wind and the girl. Her name is Obiageli. 12 years old, lean as river reeds, with eyes that carry the weight of things she should not yet know. She moves barefoot through the tall grass beyond the northern gate, her wrapper cinched tight at her chest, a calabash of water balanced in the crook of her arm. She is not running away. She is going towards something. A black-throated monitor lizard stands at the base of a termite mound ahead of her. It holds itself rigid, tongue flickering, head tilted at an unnatural angle, not toward her but past her, toward the village. Obiageli slows. She crouches. Her eyes lock with the creature's yellow gaze. The camera moves close on her face. Something shifts behind her eyes. Her lips do not move, yet the scene carries the unmistakable quality of communion, of language without sound. The lizard does not flee. It turns a slow, deliberate circle and points its blunt snout northward into the bush. Obiageli rises. She stares into the dark tree line. The wind drops completely. Silence falls like a blade. She turns and runs. Back inside the village, Ulois breathes its early morning life. Women pound yam before full light. Elders sit on carved stools outside their compounds, faces folded into the permanent expression of men who have seen enough. Children chase a goat between the market stalls. Obiageli arrives at the compound of Chibik, her father, a broad-shouldered man in his late 40s, whose authority in the village sits just below the chief's. He is tying his sandals when she appears in the doorway, breathless, dust-stained. Her face holds the specific urgency of someone who has seen what others haven't. She points north. Chibik studies his daughter with the practiced patience of a man who has had this before. He looks at his sandal. He finishes tying it. Outside the compound, two women who have been listening exchange glances. One of them, Uloku, a sharp-featured woman who lost a son to illness 2 seasons past, turns away with her mouth pressed into a line. The other, younger, watches Obiageli a moment longer before looking away. The girl stands alone in the compound entrance. Her finger still points north. Her certainty is a thing almost visible, it hangs around her like smoke. But the world around her is already moving on. The sun crests the horizon. Ulois wakes fully. And whatever waits in the bush to the north remains there, patient as hunger. The market square of Ulois is a riot of color and noise by mid-morning, baskets of odri, smoked fish laid flat on banana leaves, palm oil in ceramic jugs, children darting between adult legs like fish through reeds. The chief, Igwebike, presides from a carved stool at the square's northern edge, attended by 2 age-grade men who fan him with broad fronts. He is old but not frail. His authority is a structural thing, built into the very architecture of the village. Obiageli moves through the market with the deliberate quietness of someone used to not being believed. She carries nothing to sell. She is watching. Her eyes move across the crowd and out to the livestock pen at the market's edge, where goats and chickens are held for trade. She stops. A rooster stands at the center of the pen, surrounded by other birds that have pressed themselves against the far fence. The rooster is still. Facing east. Not eating, not crowing, just oriented, like a compass needle. Obiageli's eyes trace the direction of its gaze. East. Toward the dry riverbed that borders the village's eastern edge. She moves to the pen. Reaches through the bamboo slats and rests her hand on the rooster's back. Closes her eyes. What she receives is invisible to the camera, but its effect on her face is not. Her jaw tightens. A pulse jumps in her throat. She opens her eyes and they are wet. She goes directly to Igwebike. The chief watches her approach with the veiled wariness of a man who has been brought news he didn't want before. The market noise dims slightly as heads turn. People always turn when Obiageli approaches the chief. It has become its own kind of ceremony. She kneels. Points east. Holds up 3 fingers. 3 days. Igwebike's expression does not change. He looks to his attendants. One of them, a lean younger man named Izudo, the chief's nephew and de facto enforcer, steps forward. His face is not hostile. It is something worse, carefully blank. Uloku is watching from 3 stalls away. She says something to the woman beside her. The woman covers her mouth. The market resumes its noise. Obiageli remains kneeling before the chief. He has not dismissed her. He has not acknowledged her. He is simply looking through her at something else, the way people look through windows at weather that doesn't concern them. Izudo touches Obiageli's shoulder, not roughly, but with the firm insistence of a closing door. She rises. She walks back through the market. People step aside, not with fear exactly, but with the careful distance afforded to things that make people uncomfortable. Only one person holds her gaze as she passes, an old woman named Ngozi, sitting apart from the market activity, back against a neem tree, fingers working a string of brown seeds. Ngozi watches Obiageli with the expression of someone watching a fire they cannot stop from going out. Obiageli keeps walking. Behind her, the rooster in the pen crows once, sharply, and then goes silent. Night in Ulois carries the smell of wood smoke and fermented palm wine and the low percussion of talking drums passing messages between compounds. The community fire burns in the village center, and around it, the men of age and standing have gathered in the particular formation that means a verdict is coming. Igwe sits at the fire's head. To his right, Chibik, whose face is a fortress of controlled devastation. To his left, the medicine priest, Okofo, a slight man whose stillness is the most frightening thing in the circle. Around them, the village's decision-making core, 12 men and 3 women of senior standing, form the ring. The accusation has been formally raised. Uloku sits outside the circle, permitted to speak as the complainant. She speaks at length and the camera reads her words in the performance of her body, the rigid spine, the pointed finger, the eyes drawn repeatedly to Chibik with something that is half pity and half satisfaction. She is describing what the village has been whispering, that Obiageli's animal communications are not a gift. They are a contamination. That whatever speaks through the girl does not come from the ancestors. Okofo has been consulted. The camera finds his face. He is a man who has lived long enough to know the difference between what he understands and what he is being asked to confirm, and the tragedy in his expression is that he allows them to be the same thing. He speaks briefly. He spreads his hands. The fire pops. Sparks rise and die. Chibik does not speak. The camera holds on him, on the muscle working in his jaw, on the way his hands lie flat on his thighs with the forced stillness of a man restraining himself from an action he cannot take back. He is her father. He is also a man of this village. These two facts are grinding against each other inside him with the slow violence of tectonic plates. When the verdict is delivered, it is delivered without ceremony. No raised voices. No theater. Just Igwe aged, tired face saying a single sentence with the finality of a door being bolted. The camera cuts to Obiageli. She is sitting outside her father's compound, knees drawn up, watching a motorcycle clay lamp. She does not hear the verdict from here. But she looks up, not at the fire, not toward the meeting, but east. The direction the rooster faced. Her expression is not fear. It is grief of a very specific kind, the grief of someone who has already accepted what is coming. Dawn comes in blood colors, red and orange streaking through the harmattan haze in a sky that looks wounded. The village wakes to the sound of the talking drum sending a message through its Bonrato code that every person in Ulois recognizes. Come out. Witness. Obiageli stands in the center of the village square dressed in her cleanest wrapper. She is not weeping. Weeping would require hope that this is reversible. Her eyes are moving slowly around the faces that ring her, children pressed between adult bodies to see, women with arms folded, men standing with the particular posture of people performing dignity they don't entirely feel. Chibik stands at the edge of the crowd. He has positioned himself where his daughter cannot see his face directly. This is deliberate. His eyes are fixed on a point somewhere over her head and they do not move. The camera goes close on his hands, bowed into fist at his sides, knuckles pale. Izudo reads the terms of banishment. No physical script is visible but the words land on Obiageli's body like stones, not breaking her but marking her. One by one, her shoulders, her chin, the line of her back. She does not beg. When it is done, Izudo gestures toward the eastern gate. Two men flank her, not roughly, and walk her to the edge of the village. At the gate, she stops. She turns once to look back at the village, the cook fires, the market stalls, the faces, and the camera captures this in slow, pulling focus, the village blurring behind her as if it is already receding into memory. She finds Ngozi in the crowd. The old woman holds her gaze. Not once. The smallest movement. It contains everything. Obiageli turns back to the wilderness and walks. The gate closes behind her with a sound like a throat being cleared. The crowd disperses. Life reconstitutes itself with the unsettling normalcy of villages that have made a decision and need to believe it was right. Children return to their games. Women return to their fires. The drums fall silent. In the livestock pen, every animal, goats, chickens, the remaining dogs, presses against the eastern fence. They do not make noise. They simply face where she went. Only Ngozi sees this. She stands alone at the edge of the square, looking at the animals, and her face does the thing that faces do when the mind catches up to what the eyes have already understood. She turns toward Igobike's compound. But her feet don't move. The bush east of Ulois is not forest but something between forest and savanna, tall grasses broken by stands of shea and locust bean trees, termite mounds rising like brown monuments, the dry riverbed cutting through it all like a scar. Heat presses down on everything. Nothing moves that doesn't have to. Obiageli walks. She moves without hesitation, which is strange for a 12-year-old alone in the wild. There is a quality to her movement here that she did not have in the village, a loosening. As if the weight of being disbelieved was the weight, and now it is gone. Her feet find paths that are not paths. Her eyes move to sounds before they fully arrive. A pair of crowned cranes stand in the dry riverbed ahead. They watch her approach. Do not flee. She passes between them and they close behind her like a door. She walks until she finds a place, a wide flat rock beside a dead acacia tree, its bleached branches reaching in every direction. She sets her back against the rock. Looks east. Then north. Then south. A long slow survey, the way an elder takes inventory of a situation. Then she closes her eyes and goes still. What follows is the film's most visually complex sequence, animals arriving. Not a stampede, not a swarm, each one deliberate, each one separate. A vervet monkey settles in the acacia above her. 3 guinea fowl walk in from the south and stand in a semicircle. A female hyena emerges from the grass to the north, sits 30 meters away, and stares at the girl with the concentrated attention of a creature receiving instruction. A cape hare darts close, circles once, stops. The camera moves through this gathering slowly, savoring each arrival, each pair of eyes directed at the still girl on the rock. And then, from the north, the direction the lizard pointed, the direction the rooster faced, the direction Obiageli tried to warn them about, the sound. Low, continuous, unplaceable at first. It builds beneath the scene the way pressure builds beneath the ground before it breaks. The hyena rises. Faces north. Sits back down. Does not flee. Obiageli opens her eyes. Her face, for the first time since the banishment, looks something other than resolved. It looks afraid. She looks at the hyena. The hyena looks back. The exchange between them is too fast to fully read, too compressed, too animal, but when it ends, the girl is on her feet and moving north at a speed that the camera has to catch up with. The animals scatter in her wake. The dead acacia stands empty against the burning sky. In Ulois, the second day after the banishment has the fragile, performed quality of normalcy being worked at very hard. Chibik has not left his compound. His wife, Neka, brings him food and takes it away untouched. She is a woman who has learned to carry 2 griefs at once, for the daughter gone and for the husband disappearing before her eyes, and she carries them with the particular grace of people who have no other option. The village is performing its rhythms. Market. Fire. Drum. Prayer. But the animals are wrong. It begins subtly, the kind of wrong that registers in the body before the mind names it. Dogs that have lived in the village for years standing at gates, facing outward, refusing to eat. The livestock restless at night, circling their pens in tight patterns that gouge the earth into ruts. Birds arriving from the bush and perching in dense, unnatural clusters on the rooftops, too many, too still. Uloku notices but says nothing. She is a woman whose certainty is load-bearing. If she admits the animals are wrong, she admits she might have been wrong, and the architecture of her identity cannot absorb that. Izudo notices. He walks the village perimeter at dusk, hands clasped behind his back, face tight with the effort of not connecting things he does not want connected. He stops at the northern gate and stares into the darkening bush. Listens. Something is out there. Not one thing. Many things. Their presence is an atmospheric pressure, a change in the texture of silence. He goes to Igwebike. The chief is eating when Izudo arrives. He finishes a mouthful before he responds to his nephew's face. When Izudo speaks, wordless to the camera, conveyed in posture and gesture and the controlled urgency of a careful man, Igwebike sets down his food. He does not speak immediately. He is a man doing internal accounting, running numbers that refuse to balance. In the east, past the dry riverbed, something has caught fire. Not a cooking fire, the color is wrong, too orange, too vast. It pulses against the darkening sky. From the village, it looks like a warning. Ngozi stands at her doorway watching the fire. She is holding her string of brown seeds so tightly the string has left marks on her palm. She looks from the fire to the northern gate to Chibik's compound to the chief's compound and back to the fire, tracing a geometry of error. Then the drums begin from the northern tree line. Not the village drums. These drums have no village. They are lower, older, with a cadence that does not match any celebration or ceremony. They are the sound of something that has been waiting becoming something that is no longer willing to wait. In the livestock pen, every animal falls silent at once. The village of Yulois goes very, very still. Midnight. The fires in Yulois are kept burning high, not for warmth, but for the deep, ancient comfort of light against the dark. Men sit at the gates with machetes and hunting spears. They are not soldiers. They are farmers and traders and craftsmen holding weapons the way people hold weapons when they are hoping they won't need them. The first sign is sound, something large moving through the grass north of the village. Then more movement to the east. Then south. The sounds layer and compound until the perimeter of darkness around Yulois is entirely occupied by the noise of bodies in motion. Izudo runs to the northern gate. Holds his torch out. The firelight reaches the tree line and pulls back from what it finds. Lions. Not one. Not two. A pride of 7 or more, moving along the tree line in the low-shouldered deliberate way of lions who are not afraid. Behind them, emerging from the grass on both sides, spotted hyenas in numbers no man at the gate has ever seen together. 30. 40. Their sounds fill the dark, the ascending whoop, the giggling descant, but it is not the sound of hyenas quarreling over a carcass. It is something organized. Something that raises the hair on the neck of every man who hears it. From the south, buffalo. Moving in a war. From the east, nothing visible yet. Only the drum sound, grown louder. Inside the village, it erupts. Women pulling children. Men running toward gates with inadequate weapons. Igwebike standing at the center of the village square, genuinely still in the chaos, the stillness not of calm but of a man whose mind has stopped processing because what it is being asked to process has exceeded its architecture. Chibik grabs a spear and runs to the northern gate. He stands beside the younger men who are already shaking and stares out at the pride of lions that have stopped 30 meters from the bamboo stakes. The lions are sitting. Not attacking. Sitting in a row, like they are waiting for something. This is more frightening than an attack. Uloku, pressed against the wall of her compound with her daughters, looks out at the gathered beast and at the watching, waiting lions, and her face does the long, terrible work of a person understanding something they cannot ununderstand. The drums from the east grow louder. The beasts around the village do not move. They simply present themselves, a perimeter of animal intelligence assembled around Yulois like a sentence waiting to be read. Ngozi, alone in the square, turns to Igwebike. Her expression says what she has been saying with her feet not moving for 2 days, says it now in a way that cannot be misread. The chief of Eulois looks at the gathered darkness and at last, at enormous cost, allows his face to show what is happening behind it. He was wrong. She comes from the east at first light. The sky is the grey-white of ash when Obiageli walks out of the dry riverbed and across the open ground toward the eastern gate of Eulois. She walks slowly. Deliberately. Her wrapper is torn at the shoulder and there is dust in her hair and a long red mark on her arm that might be a branch or might not be. But she is upright. She is whole. Around her, behind her, flanking her on both sides at a respectful distance, the animals she gathered move like a retinue. The female hyena to her left. The vervet monkey riding the crook of her elbow. 2 crowned cranes pacing parallel in the grass. And behind them, shapes in the dim light that are too large, too many, their full nature becoming clearer as the light builds, more hyenas. Wild dogs. A lone female lion, younger, moving at the rear with a gait that suggests she is there by choice. At the eastern gate, men with spears see her coming from the watchtower and their shouts bring everyone running. Izudo reaches the gate first. He opens it, not fully, just enough, and watches Obiageli approach with the specific expression of a man discovering he has been standing on the wrong side of everything. His hand on the gate trembles slightly. She stops 10 meters out. The animals behind her stop. She does not look at Izudo. She looks past him into the village, doing the same slow inventory she did in the bush, reading the space, reading the damage, counting what she came back to. Izudo opens the gate fully. Obiageli walks in. The village is gathered. There is no performance here, no arrangement, just people pressing close in the raw, disorganized way of people who have just come through something and are still shaking. They make a corridor for her without meaning to, bodies stepping back as she moves through. She walks directly to Chibik. Her father has been standing at the edge of the crowd, spear still in hand, the night's terror still written across his face in a language that hasn't been erased yet by the relief of seeing her. When she stops before him, the spear drops from his hand. He does not speak. Neither does she. What happens between them is conducted entirely in the registers that language is too slow for, in the way his hands move toward her and then stop and then move again, in the way she lifts her chin and holds his gaze with those water-heavy eyes, in the precise quality of the silence between them, which is not absence but the loudest thing in the village. He pulls her close. The camera holds them for a long moment. A father and daughter in the center of a village that tried to lose her and couldn't afford to. The animals at the perimeter have withdrawn. Not fled, withdrawn, in the unhurried way of creatures that have made their point and have no further business here. By the time the sun fully rises over Eulois, the northern tree line shows nothing. The buffalo are gone from the south. The hyenas have dissolved back into the savanna. Only the distant grass, pressed flat in places by the weight of many bodies, marks what was assembled there. Inside the village, the aftermath of the night does its work. Igobike sits alone outside his compound. He is dressed simply, no ceremonial cloth, no ivory. He has the specific smallness of a powerful man who has met the edge of his power and crossed it. In his hands he holds nothing. His attendants stand back. No one is fanning him. The elders come to him one by one. They do not bring comfort. They bring the shared weight of a decision made together, arriving now to stand beside the man who gave it official voice. This is what accountability looks like when it has nowhere to hide, not dramatic, not theatrical, just old men in the early morning, sitting with what they've done. Uloku approaches Chibik's compound. She stands at the entrance for a long time. Inside, Obiageli is eating real hunger, the hollow hunger of someone who spent a night in the bush, and Neka is watching her daughter eat with the fixed attention of a woman making sure the sight is real. Chibik sits across the fire. He has not yet stopped looking at his daughter. Uloku does not enter. She stands at the threshold and the camera finds her face and holds it, the woman who named Obiageli possessed, who gave the village its permission to do what it did, now standing at the edge of a family reconstituted without her help. What crosses her face is not simple. Guilt is there, but guilt is the smallest thing. The larger thing is the seismic restructuring of a self that has been certain for too long. She set something down at the entrance to the compound. A clay pot, palm wine, or water, it doesn't matter which. She sets it down and steps back and walks away. It is not forgiveness sought. It is only acknowledgement placed. In the square, Ngozi finds Obiageli later in the morning. The old woman takes the girl's face in both hands and looks at her with the focused intensity of someone reading a document of tremendous importance. Obiageli meets this gaze without flinching. After a long moment, Ngozi nods, the same nod from the gate, but slower this time, with more weight behind it. She presses her string of brown seeds into Obiageli's hands. The girl looks down at them. Looks up. Between them, nothing further is required. The formal gathering is not called with drums. Igwebike sends Izudo on foot to each compound, no ceremony, no announcement. This is deliberate. This is a meeting that knows it does not deserve ceremony. They assemble in the meeting house, the same people who assembled around the fire 3 nights ago, and the physical space of it, the same walls, the same carved stools, the same central fire pit now cold and grey, makes the contrast unbearable. Nothing has changed in the room. Everything has changed in the room. Obiageli sits before the council. Chibik is beside her, which was not permitted at the last meeting. Ngozi has been brought in for the first time in anyone's memory, a woman, an elder, called to a council not as complainant but as witness. She sits on a stool that was brought specifically for her and she does not look at the chief. She looks at the girl. Igwebike speaks. The camera reads his body through the full length of his address, the way he keeps his eyes on Obiageli, does not look away, forces himself to bear the weight of her witnessing him. He is doing the most expensive thing a chief can do, accounting for himself in public. His hands, when the camera finds them, are those of a man holding something fragile. He does not speak long. When he finishes, Okofo, the medicine priest, who validated the accusation, sits very still for a moment. Then he rises. What he does is small. He crosses the room, stands before Obiageli, and bows his head. Brief. Formal. Complete. It is the bow of a man accepting the cost of professional failure, and it lands in the room with the silence of something heavy set down on stone. Izudo does not bow. He does something harder. He sits before the girl and opens his hands, palms up, the gesture of a supplicant, a man offering himself to judgment. His face is stripped. All the careful blankness gone. Whatever is beneath it is not comfortable to look at and he does not hide it. The camera finds Obiageli moving through all of this with an expression the film has been building toward, not triumph, not vindication, something more complicated and more costly. A 12-year-old carrying the grief of being right in a world that punished her for it, and the grief of watching the people she loves pay the price of their wrongness, and the grief of knowing that both things are true at once and that there is no ceremony that resolves them. She looks at her father. Chibik meets her eyes and for the first time his fortress face opens, only slightly, only briefly, but enough. Enough for her to see what's inside. Enough for her to see that he sees her. She looks back to the council. She nods. Once. It is not forgiveness. It is the opening of a door that was closed. The rest will take time. The rest will be made in the daily accumulation of a village learning to hear what it has been refusing to hear. That work is not done in councils. It is done in the morning at the livestock pen, in the market square, in the way people begin to leave space for the truths that arrive in forms they don't expect. The council disperses. Outside, the harmattan wind has dropped. The air is clean and still. In the cleared space of the village square, a crowned crane has landed, one bird, alone, and it stands with the complete stillness of something that arrived carrying a message and is waiting to see if it will be received. Obiageli walks past it on her way home. The bird watches her go. Then it opens its great grey wings and lifts into the afternoon sky without effort, without urgency, just the slow powerful ascent of a creature that knows its way between the earth and everything above it. The camera follows it up. Up past the thatched rooftops of Ulois. Past the bamboo stakes. Past the red dust rising in the warm air. Up until the village is a small, bounded thing below, the fires beginning again for evening, the people moving in their familiar patterns, and somewhere in it, the girl who spoke to animals returning to a life that has been cracked open and must now be rebuilt. The crane rises until it is only a point of light against the deep, indifferent blue. And then it is gone. The Igbo say, Oni wetera oji wetera no. He who brings kolanut brings life. She who brings warning brings the same. Listen.